I haven't met an athlete or coach yet that doesn't nod their head up and down that the mental part of the game is important. I'm Mike Gervais, high-performance psychologist. I've been working with the Seattle Seahawks for the past 8 years. It's a really exciting time right now because the NFL, the NBA, these massive organizations that have captured our imagination in athletics are now mandating across each league that every team has a psychologist on staff. It's a very exciting time because it is really a nod to the importance of psychology, both from a mental health and as well as from a sports performance standpoint. When I was a young athlete, I didn't understand how to get free. I didn't understand how to be able to perform when there was judges, when there was people evaluating. And so it started, honestly, like I had to earn my scars as a young athlete where I couldn't figure out how to do the thing that I was trained to do. And so it set me down this path. An undergraduate degree in psychology, a master's degree in sports science, and then back to a PhD in psychology, licensed as a psychologist, with a subspecialty in sport and performance, and really a deep understanding of what takes place in consequential environments. When there's stress in the environment, and when mistakes cost limb or lives, and the consequences are incredible, how do people flourish and excel under those types of conditions? And that really is the study and the science of high-performance psychology. How do we perform in environments where mistakes are costly? Coach CARROLL and I first met over dinner. World-class understanding of how to structure an ecosystem, a culture, for people to be able to thrive. In no uncertain terms, that's what he's done here. Coach CARROLL has been working out his system and ecosystems for the last 45 years. Of course, we're going to train physically, train technically in a world-class way, but the culture is really about creating relationships so that you can train your mind to live in the present moment more often, even when there's stress, so that you can be there for somebody else and help them do the same. And when you get that thing right, real transformation at scale takes place, and evidenced by the outcomes that the Seahawks have been able to, experience over the last handful of years. So the first phase with working with someone is a discovery phase. And it really is about asking a lot of questions, really trying to understand how they understand themselves, how they understand people, and what they believe together is possible. What is your personal philosophy? What are the guiding principles that sit underneath your thoughts, your words, and your actions? Some people might say, what's your why? But this is really sitting underneath of that is like, what are the principles that are going to guide how you engage in life? And then it's as simple as start writing to get to the signal, and the signal is 25 words or less about what it is that I stand for. What are the guiding principles that line up my thoughts, words, and actions across any environment? It's a couple sentences that really articulate what it is that matters most. And Coach CARROLL's philosophy, he's done a lot of work on this. And his is very simple. He's condensed it down to 2 words: always compete. And his philosophy, always compete to be a great dad, to be a great coach, a great friend, a great husband. And that is a way that he organizes his life to line up his thoughts, his words, and his actions. Those that haven't fundamentally organized their life towards that signal, to being connected to that signal more often, they get lots of noise. And that noise, it pulls us away. So once a philosophy is in place, and those principles are clear, and the clarity is there, the next step is to train to have conviction of those principles. Having the command of your mind to be about it in stressful environments or where there's pressure involved or there's real consequence. That's where mental skills show up. Can you have the conviction to be about it? Training your mind to be calm. That's a real mental skill. Training your mind to be confident in any environment. That is not that different than training your body to be strong and flexible. The same way we train our bodies, the same way we train our mind. It's repetitions of particular ways of thinking that allow us to be about it. If we go way upstream, there's only 3 things as humans we can train. Train our craft, train our body, and train our mind. There are 2 basic pillars of mindfulness. The first pillar is awareness. And we're talking about being aware of 4 things. Awareness of your thoughts, awareness of your emotions, awareness of your physiological sensations, the way your body feels. And the 4th is awareness of the unfolding environment. That's the first pillar. And if we stopped right there and just trained mindfulness for that, we would be a better performer, but we'd be falling far short. The second pillar is about wisdom. And so wisdom is the understanding, the ability to make something simple that's very complicated. It's getting to the truth of what it means to be human. We want to train folks to be optimistic, to be fully committed to the belief system, the lenses of which you see your future through, that it's going to work out. Optimism is the fundamental belief that it's going to work out, so let's stay in it. And that's the only chance we have of exploring our potential, exploring that outcome that we want to have, is by staying in it, even when it's hard. There's an amazing piece of research around optimism and the training of optimism. And it comes out of University of Pennsylvania, and the finding is that those that write down 3 things that are amazing in their life, and they write those down at the end of the day, that there is an increase in optimism. Let's say after practice or after training or wherever it is that you're working to try to figure out how to get better. It's 2 questions. And the first question is, what went well? The second question is, what do I want to work on? And those 2 questions end up really changing the shape of how you think about growth. So if you think about how to practice mindfulness, there's 2 basic types. The first type is single point focus mindfulness training. So single point focus is the commitment to focus on just one thing. And when your mind wanders from that one thing, which it will, it's the practice of refocusing back to the one thing. A flickering candle, a sound, a mantra. You could focus on your breath, which is where we start. Focusing on the breath, and there's 4 parts to every breath. There's an inhale, there's a pause at the top, there's an exhale, and then another pause at the bottom. And so it is a complete commitment to focusing on just one of those 4 elements. And when your mind wanders, refocusing it, just simply saying hello and goodbye to the distraction, and then coming right back to the one thing. The second type of mindfulness training is called contemplative. And a contemplative mindfulness practice is involved with observing and watching without judgment, without critique, just watching the thought stream, almost observer of one's thoughts and emotions, and just watching the linking between thoughts and how they interplay with our emotions. So the actual practice of mindfulness is unique to all of us. What that means is that there's no right way to do it, whether it's laying down, standing up, sitting down. There's lots of ways to practice mindfulness. One of the ways to start, though, is by sitting. And the reason sitting is important is because we have a spine and we have a posture that we're going to hold ourselves in place with. And at the moment we close our eyes, for most humans that are living in this fast-paced, high-stress, chronic environment of on, is that the moment that we close our eyes, that it sends the signal to our brain to relax, which is cool. Except it's a trigger to napping and sleeping. When you hold your posture in your carriage in a dignified way, that as soon as you close your eyes and start doing the work, and you recognize that you're starting to take a nap and slump over, that your brain goes, wait, what are we doing? And it snaps us back into place to get back to the task at hand. Research has found that there's this network in our brain, and it's called the default mode network. The default mode network are lots of different parts of the brain that are communicating together at the same time, and it's a default mode, which means that it's happening most of the time. And unfortunately, this default mode network, it's what's happening most of the time, is checking to see if we're okay. It's this self-referencing. Am I okay? Is this okay? And the reason I say it's unfortunate is because it's designed for survival. It's designed to make sure that you're okay. And that can be a constrictor or a culprit to finding the freedom and the space to just be here. So what happens through mindfulness training is that it suppresses the default mode network. And that is thought to be one of the entryways into flow state. It's one of the entryways to consistently perform towards the upper limits of potential. The science of mindfulness is incredibly encouraging right now. What we're finding is that those that practice mindfulness actually change their structure, their brain structure, their neurochemistry. So mindfulness, from a research perspective, has been found to increase the frequency of flow state for people. Flow state is the most optimal state a human can be in. The second piece that we know from mindfulness is that there are real changes in stress responses. And that gets involved with things like blood pressure, it gets involved with circulation health, it gets involved with neurochemical exchange that are very complicated and nuanced that support health, let alone performance. It's involved in better parenting. It's involved in folks that want to regulate sleep better and have a decrease in the fluctuation of mood and a decrease in overall fatigue. There's a whole host of physiological, chemical, neurochemical, behavioral, as well as psychological benefits for practicing mindfulness. So when we measure the effects of thoughts that are connected in a powerful way to the present moment, we can see stress responses. We can see how people's heart rate, blood pressure, skin conductance, how much they're sweating. We can see the artifact of thought, but there's not one link that says, if you can squat this much, you're gonna do X number of percent better. If you drink this or eat this, that you're gonna do X percent better. But we would agree that stronger, more dynamically mobile athletes are going to do better. We would also agree that if you eat properly and you're well hydrated, you'll do better. Same with psychology. That if you think well, think in ways that are strong and nimble and powerful, that you'll be able to be that when the environment calls for it. Mindfulness can get lumped into this discipline of, okay, is this a hippy dippy, is this some sort of like spiritual practice? It could be those, there's nothing wrong with them. But there's a stigma that comes with it. It's changing now. It's changing because of science, it's changing because of who is talking about the practice of investigating their inner life. There's a very exciting thing that's taking place is that athletes are aware of it. They understand the value of it. The response to mindfulness varies. Some people, it's overwhelming and it feels like it's too weird. And some people, they're very clear about it. They're like, this is going to be an accelerant, a competitive advantage. This is something that is an untapped place for me to explore, and I can't wait to do it more. And they acknowledge that it's challenging to help people flourish, to help people do their best work, and certainly in a collective way to help people push against the limits of what's possible.